In early 1939, after Superman had already exploded onto the page, National Comics Publications went searching for the next big hero. Bob Kane answered that call with a sketchpad full of oddball influences. Bits of the Bat Whispers, Da Vinci's flying machines, and a bright red jumpsuit topped with a domino mask. It was rough, strange, and nowhere near what we picture today, but what he did fight for through a contract that would define the next few decades was a sole credit, an agreement that ensured his name would appear prominently while another man's deeper fingerprints would be pushed into the margins. Because the truth is, Batman, as we know him, didn't fully spring from Kane's pencil. Bill Finger, the uncredited architect for most of the character's history, reshaped that sketch into a myth. He added the shadows, the cowl, the long scowled cape, the muted color palette. He created Bruce Wayne, drawing from real historical figures, and wrote many of the early stories, including the original tragic origin that would echo across generations. Finger didn't just revise Batman, he essentially defined him, transforming a quirky pulp idea into a figure with weight, tragedy, and a sense of brooding gravitas. And then it happened. Batman arrived on March 30th, 1939, in Detective Comics number 27 with the Case of the Chemical Syndicate, a 6-page crime story that was stylish, moody, and instantly magnetic. Readers didn't yet know that this character would evolve through decades of reinnovation, reinterpretation, and cultural rewiring. They didn't know he survived camp, noir, reinvention after reinvention, or that he'd end up symbolizing something different to every generation that adopted him. But the seed was planted. Gotham's protector, its night-dwelling, morally complicated guardian, was born. Fast forward over 60 years, and now we have 10 full feature-length films. 10 centered on this one guy in a batsuit. From gothic fairy tales to grounded crime sagas, Batman has taken on more forms than almost any other modern myth. And somehow, despite being punched, rebooted, recast, dismantled, reconstructed, and memed to oblivion, he keeps coming back. Studios keep greenlighting him, audiences keep showing up. Directors keep trying to say something new with him. So that brings us to the question, why? What makes this decrepit degenerate, this emotionally volatile billionaire who dresses like a flying rodent, so endlessly adaptable and so endlessly profitable that Hollywood has produced 10 entire movies about him? Today we're diving through all the Batman films to figure out what's going on here, why this character, why this myth, and why he still matters to so many people after 8 decades in the dark. As the first feature-length outing for the Caped Crusader, Batman, the movie, takes the wild, candy-colored energy of the 60s TV show and indulges. The plot is intentionally simple. Batman and Robin face the combined forces of 4 supervillains, the Joker, the Penguin, Riddler, and Catwoman, who've united to pull off the ultimate world domination scheme with a dehydrator ray. What the fuck? It is less a narrative and more a string of absurd set pieces. But that's entirely the point. The film isn't chasing complexity or emotional depth. It's chasing pure, unfiltered, whatever this is. And honestly, as a pop art comedy, it works. This Batman is at his broadest and boldest, a version of the character driven not by vengeance or trauma, but by civic duty, moral absolutism, and the kind of gee-whiz optimism that could only exist in 1966. This Batman doesn't brood, he lectures, he moralizes, he warns about proper drinking etiquette. He's more of a campy public servant than a tortured crime fighter, and the movie commits so fully to that tone that it becomes sweet. It knows exactly what it is and refuses to apologize for any of it. Visually, the film is every costume, every set, every explosion. It's there. The production design embraces artifice, buildings that look like cardboard, gadgets that look like toys, props that would collapse under the weight of realism. But that deliberate cheapness, it's a little charming. And because the movie leans into that theatricality, the humor still lands. Unintentionally, intentionally, I don't know. The film doesn't ask you to suspend disbelief, it's asking you to play along. If you can meet it at its level, the camp becomes infectious. It's big, it's silly, it's unapologetically ridiculous, and honestly, it's kind of a blast. Fast forward 20 years and holy shit. Yeah, the whiplash is real. Suddenly, Batman isn't a campy public servant warning kids about proper hydration. He's a creature of the night again. Burton's Batman kicks off with a plot that's lean, pulpy, and wonderfully theatrical. This movie is a comic book movie brought to life, not with realism, but with vision. Because this is a comic book movie that embraces its medium's roots and turns them into cinematic gold. Take fucking note. Burton's film isn't just good, it's a benchmark, a watershed moment, one of the most visually unique and thematically confident comic adaptations ever made. And for me, yeah, this is the second best Batman movie ever put on screen. From frame one, it drenches you in atmosphere. Gotham isn't a real city here, it's a fever dream. Art Deco skyscrapers fused with industrial nightmare fuel. A place where crime feels mythic and the shadows feel alive. It's not New York, it's not Chicago, it is unapologetically Gotham. Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne is unconventional. He's awkward, introverted, and a little weird, which actually kinda works, but his Batman? Quietly brilliant. He moves like a phantom, speaks like a myth, and wears the best suit in the franchise. Keaton's performance nails the idea of a man who's more comfortable as Batman than Bruce, which adds a subtle tragic edge the script barely touches, but he absolutely sells. But look, we all know who steals this movie. Jack Nicholson's Joker isn't just good, he's era-defining. I'll say it, Nicholson's Joker is the best Joker. He's the perfect cocktail of classic comic flamboyance and genuine danger. He's not Ledger's chaotic philosopher or Phoenix's wounded outsider. He's the original gangster clown, a criminal mastermind with an artist ego and a killer instinct. Nicholson's Joker is theatrical, smug, hilarious, and unnervingly violent. Every scene he's in becomes instantly iconic. Even when he's being silly, there's a coldness in his eyes that reminds you he's a monster wearing a smile. And the finishing touches? Perfection. Danny Elfman's score is untouchable. The definitive Batman theme that still sends chills. The production design, the gadgets, the matte paintings, the one-liners, the Prince soundtrack, every single piece feels like it belongs to this strange, beautifully artificial world Burton crafted. It's bold, it's cohesive, it's confident, a film that doesn't apologize for being a comic book, but celebrates it with style, imagination, and a whole lot of attitude. It's not quite as focused or cleanly structured as Batman '89, but it's still dripping with style, personality, and twisted holiday noir vibes. The story, messy, overstuffed, you can feel it tugging in multiple directions at once. Catwoman's revenge, Penguin's descent, Bruce Wayne's moral struggles, Max Shreck's corporate corruption. It's a lot, and not all of it clicks. Pacing lags at times, and some narrative choices feel more about thematic symmetry than actual plot logic. But the vibe, the world building, absolutely incredible. It doesn't land as neatly as the first film, yet there's something beautiful in its unhinged, stylized chaos. Tim Burton's personal flair is all over this movie. It's fascinating, if not exactly the Batman I'd want. Still, it never stops being visually and tonally compelling. Batman Mask of the Phantasm is amazingly well animated and an incredibly immersive showcase of what an animated Batman film can achieve. The visuals, atmosphere, and attention to detail elevate it far beyond typical superhero fare, making Gotham feel lived in, dangerous, and emotionally resonant. The film knows how to balance action, suspense, and character drama in a way few DC movies, animated or live action, ever manage. That said, the twist, pretty poor. It undercuts some of the tension and feels a bit forced, sticking out awkwardly in an otherwise excellent narrative. Even so, this remains one of the best portrayals of Batman's world on screen, and its ambition and execution are hard to beat. This movie is chaotic, colorful, uneven, and honestly kind of a good time. It's not a masterpiece, and it doesn't hold a candle to the Burton films, but it has its moments. Rough around the edges, tonally inconsistent, and often too loud for its own good, Batman Forever still manages to entertain. Val Kilmer steps into the role with more subtlety than he gets credit for, giving Bruce Wayne a reserved, introspective quality that fits the movie's slightly more psychological ambitions. He's not perfect, but he's a solid anchor for a film constantly at risk of spinning off the rails. That said, the movie suffers from serious tonal whiplash. It juggles camp, comedy, emotional depth, and high-stakes superhero action, and doesn't always land. The script can be clunky, pacing is uneven, and some character arcs, especially Robin's, feel half-baked. The film wants to explore themes of duality and identity, but is often too distracted by flash and flare to fully deliver. Still, for all its missteps, there's a strange charm here that makes it fun to watch. There's no getting around it. Batman and Robin is a bad movie. Not misunderstood, not ahead of its time, not so campy it's secretly genius. No, it's just bad. And look, dumb fun exists. There are moments here where the sheer absurdity becomes obtaining in a how did this get made kind of way, but as a Batman film, it's an unmitigated disaster. A neon-drenched toy commercial fever dream that feels like it was written by a committee armed with action figures and a corporate mandate to sell merchandise. But here's the thing. For all its neon chaos, Batman and Robin became a turning point. Its failure was so monumental, so wildly mocked, that it forced Warner Bros. To rethink the entire character. The camp experiment crashed and burned, and from the ashes came a new direction, one that would eventually lead to a darker, more grounded era of Batman filmmaking. So yeah, this movie sucks, spectacularly, but we needed it. Then comes 2005, and suddenly everything just works. After years of neon excess and tonal confusion, Batman Begins feels like a cinematic correction, a course reset so confident, so refined that it practically reinvented the entire superhero genre overnight. Tone, cast, pacing, world building, it all clicks in a near perfect harmony. The film is serious without becoming self-important, stylish without becoming flashy, and emotionally grounded in a way most comic book movies still struggle to pull off. Nolan doesn't just reintroduce Batman, he rebuilds him from the ground up. From the opening frames, the film treats Bruce Wayne as a character instead of an icon. We watch him unravel, rebuild, and redefine himself with an intensity that finally gives the mythology emotional weight. And Christian Bale anchors all of it. His Bruce Wayne is vulnerable, angry, and human, carrying the role with a balance of rage and compassion. And yes, the Batman voice is a choice, a loud, gravel-filled, throat-destroying choice, but even with that, Bale's performance lands because the character finally has depth. The supporting cast elevates everything. Michael Caine brings warmth, Gary Oldman brings sincerity, Morgan Freeman brings charm, and Cillian Murphy steals scenes with unsettling ease. The film is also a technical triumph. Nolan's direction is controlled and deliberate, turning Gotham into a city with texture, grimy, decaying, and believable. The score by Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard is thunderous and moody, one of those rare soundtracks that doesn't just accompany the story, but defines it. The visuals are crisp, the action is weighty, and the thematic through line fear as both a weapon and a sickness, ties the whole thing together. In the end, Batman Begins remains one of the best examples of how to do an origin story right. It's thematically rich, meticulously crafted, and emotionally sincere without ever losing sight of the spectacle. It restored dignity to a character many thought was beyond saving, and it set the stage for what would become one of the most influential trilogies of the modern era. This wasn't just a comeback, it was a rebirth. It might be overhyped in the way all cultural juggernauts eventually are, quoted to death, dissected in every film class, endlessly memed, but even with all that weight, The Dark Knight still holds up as a masterclass in blockbuster filmmaking. This isn't just a sequel that raises the stakes, it's one that elevates the entire genre. From the moment the windows of that bank shatter and the Joker's plan unfolds in silence, the film grips you with a sense of controlled chaos that almost never lets go. It's sharp, bold, and confident in every frame. Heath Ledger's Joker is, of course, the instant legend, unpredictable, magnetic, and genuinely unsettling. He commands the film without ever overwhelming it. But the magic of the movie isn't just Ledger, it's the way every character becomes a piece on a moral chessboard. The escalating tension between Batman, Joker, Harvey Dent, and Gordon creates a story where every decision carries weight, every failure has consequence, and even the quiet conversations feel like they're building towards something catastrophic. Nolan directs with surgical precision. His style here is sleek, efficient, and pulsing with dread. There's almost no wasted motion. Every scene pushes something forward. The plot, the themes, the characters, the psychology. And because the storytelling is so tight, the emotional and thematic depth hits harder. The film isn't trying to be gritty for grittiness' sake. It's dissecting fear, chaos, heroism, and the fragility of civil order. It's a crime epic wearing a cape, a tragedy wrapped in spectacle. Even the densest philosophical moments feel urgent because they're woven directly into the stakes. Is it the best Batman movie? Not for me, sorry, but that doesn't take away from what it accomplishes. The Dark Knight is the absolute pinnacle of what this type of Batman story can be. It's perfect at what it's trying to do, and it earns its place in the cultural canon every single time. This is the kind of big operatic finale most trilogies can only dream of. The Dark Knight Rises isn't trying to outdo The Dark Knight at its own game. It's doing something broader, heavier, and more mythic. Nolan swings for the fences on scale, emotion, and spectacle, and somehow it all lands. The film may not have the razor-sharp precision of its predecessor, but what it does have is that thunderous sense of momentum, a constant rolling urgency that makes every decision, every reveal, and every punch feel monumental. It feels huge in every possible way, like Gotham's fate is genuinely hanging by a thread. And speaking of punches, this is where Nolan finally perfects the physical side of Batman. The fight scenes here are easily the best in the trilogy. They're raw, brutal, and grounded, stripped of the slow, old, elderly man fighting that held the earlier movies back. Visually, this is the most striking Batman movie Nolan ever made. The IMAX footage is jaw-dropping, giving the city a grander, colder atmosphere that feels almost mythological. Snow drifting through empty streets, massive crowds clashing on Gotham steps, the football stadium collapse. Every sequence is framed like modern myth-making. It's also, frankly, the prettiest film in the trilogy. The first two had their iconic looks, sure, but Rises is where the cinematography and production design finally hit their peak. Narratively, Nolan goes full circle on theme and character. Bruce's arc feels complete, broken, rebuilt, and finally allowed to move on. The film doesn't just end the trilogy, it resolves a character journey that began in 2005. Yes, it's big, yes, it's dramatic, yes, it's occasionally messy, but that's the point. It's operating in the register of myth, a story about a man whose symbol outgrows him and the city that finally learns how to stand without him. In the end, The Dark Knight Rises is a bold, poetic send-off to one of cinema's greatest trilogies. Glorious, sweeping, emotional. An operatic curtain call worthy of the legend it closes. Not perfect, but absolutely monumental. Now finally, the Batman movie you've all been waiting for! You really thought. I'm not talking about it in this video. Boo-hoo, cry me a river. We're talking about the one nobody expected to be amazing, the one made out of plastic bricks. The Lego Batman movie is somehow, against all odds and logic, one of the smartest, funniest, and most emotionally sincere Batman films ever made. First things first, the movie is stunning. Yes, the cinematography, actual cinematography in a Lego movie, is breathtaking. That golden, shimmering aesthetic gives the entire film this warm storybook glow, like Gotham filtered through a dream. Every frame is composed with care, texture, and depth, filled with visual jokes, tiny details, and kinetic energy. The lighting feels closer to a live-action blockbuster than an animated comedy. The animation team didn't just create a world, they shot one. But the biggest surprise? The writing. Beneath the constant jokes, references, meta-commentary, and gleeful roasting of Batman tropes, the film hits a genuine emotional core. It digs into something most Batman films gesture at, but rarely commit to. The importance of connection, the fear of vulnerability, the pain of loneliness, and the emotional walls Bruce builds and hides behind. It treats these themes with sincerity, just enough to resonate, but never so much that it becomes preachy. And honestly, it's one of the only versions of Batman, including the comics, where the Bat family actually works for me. The film understands something essential. Batman's greatest flaw isn't his anger or his darkness or his trauma, it's his isolation, his refusal to let people in. And the entire story becomes a playful, heartfelt dismantling of that flaw. It's a full character arc, wrapped in jokes, action, and references, but somehow it still lands with genuine emotional weight. It's hilarious, heartfelt, stylistically gorgeous, and thematically rich. A brilliant Batman movie disguised as a toy commercial. A parody that understands the character better than half of the dramatic adaptations ever made. And honestly, it deserves way more credit than it gets. So Batman's importance begins with something deceptively simple. He is a mortal in a world of gods. His limitations are not a weakness, but the very heart of his symbolism. In an age of superhumans, cosmic threats, and impossible feats, Batman stands out because he rises without any of those gifts. He forces himself upward through discipline, pain, and relentless purpose. That's why he resonates so deeply, because all of us understand what it means to feel small, outmatched, or powerless. Batman reminds us that heroism does not require extraordinary abilities, it requires extraordinary will. The cape and cowl are not a disguise of power, they are an affirmation that greatness can be built, not inherited. At the core of Batman's ethos is a kind of human-driven heroism that pushes against the cynical idea that one person can't make a difference. Gotham is a city designed to break people. Corrupted systems, decaying infrastructure, predators who exploit the powerless, an endless cycle of crime feeding on despair. But Batman exists to disrupt that cycle, even if only in fragments, even if only for one night at a time. His victories are often small, saving a single person, stopping a single criminal, preventing one tragedy that mirrors his own. But those small victories matter. They ripple outward. Batman teaches us that heroism doesn't have to be grand to be meaningful. Sometimes just choosing to act when others choose indifference is revolutionary. And then there's the inner darkness, the part most heroes never dare to confront. Batman is not noble because he's unbroken, he is noble because he is broken and refuses to let that brokenness define him. Every night, he steps into the alley where his childhood ended, metaphorically and emotionally. And every night, he chooses to use his pain rather than be consumed by it. He weaponizes his trauma not as an excuse to destroy, but as a reason to prevent destruction. In that way, he becomes a living contradiction, a man shaped by despair who dedicates his life to giving others the hope he was denied. He is proof that confronting one's inner shadows does not mean surrendering to them. What makes Batman truly compelling is the idea that he is as human, as flawed, and as wounded as the rest of us. He is not above fear, he's defined by how he responds to it. He's not without doubt, he simply refuses to let doubt paralyze him. He is not immune to failure. In fact, failure haunts him constantly, yet despite all that, despite the fact that Gotham often seems to be so desperately lost, he keeps going, he keeps fighting, he keeps trying. That persistence is not just bravery, it's a form of compassion so intense that it borders on self-destruction. Batman never gives up on Gotham, even when Gotham gives up on itself, and that unwavering dedication is what elevates him from vigilante to symbol. And ultimately, that's why Batman endures. He is a reminder that darkness does not have to be the end of the story. Gotham may be bleak, chaotic, and seemingly beyond redemption, but Batman's very existence pushes back against that belief. He stands on rooftops and in alleyways like a quiet promise that someone out there still cares enough to fight, even when the fight seems unwinnable. His legacy is not victory, it's endurance, it's resilience, it's the idea that even in the worst possible world, in the darkest possible moment, someone can choose to stand up and say, "Not tonight." Batman is not the hero who saves the world, he is the hero who refuses to stop trying. And in a world as bruised and as uncertain as ours, that refusal might be the most powerful symbol of all. But as always, maybe I have no idea what I'm talking about, so until next time, keep watching movies, keep noticing the little details, and remember to form your own opinions.